I have now delivered just over 1,000 on-stage presentations to small business owners over the past 30 years. Along the way, I learned one of the most important lessons of my life, and I learned it the hard way. It's a lesson that changed not just how I spoke and presented in public, but more importantly, how I worked, led, and thought about the future. If you want to do something well, consistently, over a long period of time, this is part of the price: preparation. By the time I retired from this part of my career, I had gotten, I think, pretty good at public speaking. By the way, I hated speech class in college and high school, but once I started my own small business, I realized pretty quickly I had to get over that. So early on, I took a Dale Carnegie public speaking course. And in addition, I read everything I could get my hands on. I studied persuasion, audience engagement, rules of PowerPoint presentations, and so much more. But the single most important lesson I ever learned about public speaking, and by the way, as you'll quickly find out, this is not a video about public speaking. To the point, the most important lesson I ever learned about public speaking did not come from a book or from any speech class. It came from my 8th speaking event, which occurred in 2001. And I remember it like it was yesterday. Here's my story. At that point in my career, I was about 2 years into my small business, and obviously very early in my speaking career. But I had to tell the world and audiences every week, if I could, who we were and what we did for them. In the background, I had a young, growing, demanding small business. I was incredibly busy. That's no excuse, but I was. Event number 8 was local, and I made a decision that, at the time, felt perfectly reasonable. I told myself, I can wing this. I'll do fine. I've got so many other things to work on. I'm not going to spend hours on this small presentation. That was a mistake. On my 8th public presentation, I walked into a room full of older, smarter, experienced, and very demanding professionals, and I was completely unprepared. I don't mean a little underprepared. I was completely unprepared. I can admit it in hindsight. And they knew it. The audience was sharp. They listened to many other speakers, almost all better than me, I'm sure. They asked better questions than I was ready for. I think they could tell I had not done the background work. And when the event was over, they absolutely skewered me on the reviews. I was devastated. For a little while, a week or 2 or 3, I really did think that my speaking career, maybe even my young business, were finished. If you ever felt that, you know it's not a small thing. The good news is they weren't. And the reason my public speaking career and my business weren't finished is because of what I did next. From that point on, from that day forward, and for the next 992 speaking events without fail, I prepared meticulously every single time. I never missed. It did not matter whether the event was large or small, local or national, easy or difficult, whether I had 2 people in the audience or 200, whether it was paid or unpaid. Sometimes, by the way, on the other coastline with a 3-hour time difference. That matters when you fly in the night before. I treated preparation like it was the performance. No matter how tired I was, I remembered speaking event number 8. Every single event, 4 hours before it was time to speak, I would begin. It didn't matter if it was 4 a.m. in the morning, if I had just landed 6 hours prior that evening, I would go through my PowerPoint presentation, slide by slide. I wrote the presentation, so I already knew it. I still went through it, slide by slide. I would present out loud. I pity the people in the rooms next to me, but that was the cost. I would review my notes. I would think about what had worked in previous presentation and what maybe didn't. I would pace around the hotel room. I delivered that presentation over and over. And, and I did more than that. I did so fully dressed for the event, not casually, not halfway, the real thing. And back in those days before Zoom and Teams and all the video stuff, that was suit and tie stuff. Yep, I put that tie on at 4 in the morning and I got ready. My shoes were polished. Everything was meticulously prepared for. And I went over my presentation again and again and again. I almost always improved the slides and polished them one more time, hour before I would go down for the event. The presentations kept getting better. I got better, not just by presenting, but I think more so through the ritualistic preparation process. In fact, I'm not bragging here. I stand at the altar of humility. I learned the hard way to pay even more attention to preparation in the last 100 speaking events of the 1,000 I did, because I still remembered that complacency, overconfidence, even arrogance, that was the real threat to success. Experience can make you better. But if you are not careful, experience can also make you lazy. And I never wanted to forget presentation number 8. That painful experience taught me something I have never forgotten. Preparation is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of respect. And that's something that's become more and more important to me as I get older. Let's talk about respect for just a moment, because that's why you prepare. It's because you respect your audience, people you may have never even met, especially people you may have never met. You are respecting the opportunity that someone gave you. And you're respecting the message that you have to deliver, enough to deliver it exceptionally well. I say that now like it's just old hat. I learned the hard way. I hope to spare you that. But over time, I also came to see that this lesson was so much bigger than public speaking. And that is the takeaway that I hope benefit from in this video. This lesson applies to every small business and to every small business owner. Too many owners prepare only for what is right in front of them. You know the drill. The next meeting, the next sale, the next fire to put out, the next payroll, the next hard conversation with an employee or a leader in your business. But the businesses that grow stronger over time do something more than that. They have to. They prepare for the future before the future arrives. They prepare the next leader before that leader is desperately needed. They prepare the next system and process before growth exposes and demands the weakness be fixed. They prepare the next generation of leadership before the founder is burned out, sick, or all too ready to slow down. That is one of the great lessons of business ownership, and that is what I want to share with you today. I'm so glad that I had the motivating experience early in my career to propel me to become better. And thanks for listening to it, because I really haven't said this out loud to many people, and it feels good just to talk about it. So yes, I became a better speaker by speaking 1,000 times, literally, and more than that probably. But most of the skill that people saw on stage was built and developed before I ever stood up on that stage, before I ever walked into the room. That's the lesson. Don't confuse performance with talent. A lot of what looks like talent is really preparation, repeated over time. And if you are a younger entrepreneur, which is just about everybody from my perspective, that's good news. That's great news, because preparation as a tool, that is available to you right now. You don't have to wait for a crisis to get serious. You don't have to do a face plant before you learn to stand up straight and get it right, you can start becoming better prepared right now. And that will take you farther than you can possibly think. Thanks for listening, and please subscribe for more videos and life lessons like this. It means a lot to share them with you. Take care.